I'm Ken, and I have three things that I would like to talk to you about. Three sections. One is where I became invested in climate change, uh, education. Two, I would like to talk about what I do professionally, kind of the strategy that we use when I'm talking to about 300 classes of sixth grade through 12th grade per year. And three, I'd also like to talk about some of the work we're doing at Portland Mennonite in the Justice Committee, which I am a part of. I am going to switch over to sharing my screen and go to PowerPoint. Yeah, so that's me. This is what I do. This first part is about why I do this. Again, about 3 days a week, I talk to an average of 5 classrooms per day, sixth grade through 12th. Oops, let me get over to the other part. And I developed my love of nature as a kid. My family had a farm in Texas back in the 60s. That I was, it was the thing that I loved to do was to go outside and to hike around on that farm. And so I would spend every waking moment that I wasn't doing chores out exploring that land. And I fell in love with nature. I absolutely loved it. And I found out that that's where I am the happiest. I went into biology teaching, and then for 33 years in public schools, I taught in Texas, Kansas, Pennsylvania, California, and Oregon. And especially in California, one of the things that was really important to me was that when I taught students that were from all over the world, all the inhabited places of the world, their families seem to be in Southern California. And one of the things that has really made me care about climate is that I'm not okay with people the rest of the world climate change. Those families were amazing, and I value them. Another reason that I'm invested in climate change is my love of nature has allowed me now with 4 days a week to be out and be a nature guide. And so I take people in Steigerwald National Wildlife Refuge to see what it is that they want to see. And if you go out with me in that refuge, you can find 45 to 80 bird species per day in a few hours. I am a wildlife photographer. The pictures you're looking at are ones that I've taken in the last few days, with one of them being last summer. But I find beauty in nature. I think nature is phenomenal. I love studying its beauty, its intricacies, and to understand wildlife's tendencies so that I can show up, record that, and be a part of that and not disrupt that. So for me, I like having my finger on the pulse of wildlife by being out there, and I do that with photography, and then I'm able to share that with a lot of the students that I talk to. My third reason for really caring about climate change is I'm a papa to a couple of my granddaughters. May is 3, and Noelia is 1, and when I look into those eyes, and I happen to know, for me, eyes are really important. When I look into kids' eyes, I know that they're going to be slammed compared to me. And I don't want that world for them. I would like for them to be able to, going back, I would love for them to be able to still see this wildlife when they're my age. So expanding then and taking that passion of climate change, knowing that for me, this is absolutely the game changer. I love going into the classrooms. And again, this focuses on the eyes of those kids. When I look into the eyes of 30 times 5 kids per day, I see that they would like something to be done about this. They are not denying it. They would like to see a future. So what I do, I work for Oregon Metro, which is a sustainability related government that has over 25 cities in our service area that is the greater Portland area. So we currently have a lesson in which we talk about the science. I'm not going to talk about that. I want to talk about a couple of the key components here of how we approach kids with this, students with this, and then moving them toward action, understanding the system, and then moving them toward making a difference. In our presentation, if I were to click into this, and this is a PowerPoint, so that doesn't work, but if I were to click into this, the first thing that we would see, we help students to look at the system that needs to change. And so we will bring this up, we will read it all the way around and have the students thinking about what lines of connection they see in this global economy graphic that we have here. We then, after they brainstorm connections, we have them come up and actually make the connections and explain. And so just real quick, the idea here is to help to understand the system that needs to change. Understand, and are you seeing my arrow when I move it? Understand that this is our source. This is what it is that is important. Our natural resources, our source of oxygen, our source of water, our source of food, clothing, everything. And we also understand from what science is telling us, we need 45% reduction in fossil fuels in the next 10 years. And so we have them mark the fossil fuel part out and then look at what we can replace that with in renewable energy. We then move from, okay, there was a system in a concept map, now let's make it real. And so we show them in this metaphor of the stream of stuff that they are here in this buy and use box in this stream, that they are standing in the stream, and from them, this is upstream, from them, this is downstream. And so we have them predict, where does the most environmental damage take place? Where does the most, in this case, the thing that is pushing our existence, the burning of fossil fuels, where does the most happen? And then we play videos all the way through here while taking data. And so after seeing those videos, it becomes pretty obvious that the American thought of being green and being environmentally conscious has to do with where you put your trash. Probably doesn't make a giant difference when it comes to climate change as to things that happen upstream. And so it's a bit of a paradigm shift, because most of this part up here is hidden from them, but this activity makes that apparent. We then switch to something that helps them, like I'll go ahead and say this, that in our church, we developed the 3 movements of climate change, which I'll come back to. 1, we check ourselves to see what we can do to reduce our own emissions. 2, we need to go bigger than ourselves. And 3, we need to reach back and to help those that have already been slammed and devastated by climate change. So we look at Project Drawdown, which has a goal of reducing carbon dioxide parts per million to a safe level to where the climate can be healed over time, over hundreds and even thousands of years. And we show the students that there's a list of 80, and I'm showing you only 20 of those. There are some of those things in the list make a bigger difference than others. Like number 1 here is an 89 billion ton difference with refrigerant management. Again, drawdown is if these things were done worldwide, not just in the United States. And we realize our students can't really participate in some of these because of where they're at in their lives, but we have left ones out that they can participate in, possibly, depending upon where they're at. Some students will just need to live to the next day. That's going to be their goal. But there are some that could participate in some of these. And so we have taken 8 out and we hand them these cards, which are represented individually here by these things that they can possibly do that might have something to do with reducing carbon emissions. And when we do that, we allow them to have conversations about which ones they think make the biggest difference. We then come back and we show them what the actual order is. And going back to that downstream thing, you notice where recycling is in this. Number one thing people say in the United States as to whether they are green, environmentally minded, or family recycles. But when it comes to climate change, again, starting with food, something that we all do, there are some things there that make a really big difference. And if we're just in the United States, we'd probably pull driving an electric car up above this, even though that's not sustainable over a long time. It makes a difference in the short run here for getting that 45% reduction in carbon. We then move to climate heroes, and we show people that are doing things and going bigger than themselves. And we talk about this being even more important than them reducing their own carbon. And we show heroes like Xavier Cortada, who paint signs for people to show them how far above sea level. People get to talking in Florida when he does this, and then you have a whole community that suddenly cares about climate change because this is 8 feet above sea level. What scientists say is that house will be toast in the next century or two. We also give we have this activity where we hand students a card, and it has on it a part that they act out as climate heroes. And so we have 13 different cards, and you can see we have a wide variety of people here, a wide variety of things, and they get to go around and be that climate hero and meet the other climate heroes within the class time. And so it shows them a wide variety of ways to go bigger than themselves. And I want to just show you, I'm going to go past that one and say that one other thing that we are doing that's really exciting is we have community partners with a high school that we have piloted this with this last year. And we have AP environmental science students that we, at this high school, we talk to them about climate change. We help them in producing their own lessons. There are several different classes. This is one of 2 classes. And so we end up with 65 kids that then go out and talk to 1,200 sixth graders. We're hoping to increase that to 2,000 sixth graders. So what I love about this is you look at these pictures and you can see these kids look like the kids that they're talking to. And I feel like that's maybe more effective. It's easier to do than having an old white man come in and talk to them about climate change. It's been super effective, highly rated. We're really excited about that program. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, which isn't necessarily the last thing I want to talk about, but it's a good thing to talk about. The third thing is my work at Portland Mennonite Church with our Justice Committee. We have been focusing for the last 2 years at Portland Mennonite on our response to climate change. That has been the focus of our committee. And we have done a host of things. I'll just say that one of the things that we do is education through bulletin inserts. And we will often get up and share and talk about that. But what I'm showing you is one of the bulletin inserts, and the graphics are by Kurt Weaver. And again, this is the 3 movements. And as I bring these up, feel free to look down through there. I just want to point out some of the bigger things that we have done that maybe illustrate some of the ones that are here. We have had, we're coming up on our 3rd plant-based diet potluck, in which we have people bring in their favorite vegetarian foods. And we have a huge potluck. We invite the community in, and we have the recipes to go along with that, knowing that as we move away from meat, that we need some help with that. Let's see. I want to say also what Doug said about having conversations and sermons and having climate change and prayer. That's happening at Portland Mennonite. We're having a lot of conversations about it. We have had a Sunday school class, and I'll just go into the reach out so you can read those while I'm talking about this. But we've had Sunday school classes both at the adult level, which have talked about the climate science, looking at the moral and the spiritual issues of it, racism and unjust systems, our dependence on technology, and we've also looked at businesses' role in responding to climate change. And so that has been over the last couple of years. Let's see. And we are also doing things that have to do with on this reaching out beyond ourselves. I think at Portland Mennonite, at this point, when it comes to climate change, we have to take sides. And so we do become political, and we do show up at rallies, and we do calling, and we do sharing about when political issues, when there's a vote coming up. Last Sunday, we had laptops at the back of the church, and people would come back, hit the touch screen as to where they were on the map, find their representative, and then we would have a slip that would be talking points to contact legislators. And so we do take sides on it. Let's see. And just going to put one last one up here. We are looking for community partners for part of this reach back, community partners for the fossil fuels that we do burn, having carbon offsets go to something that is not out there. And sometimes it seems kind of weird to buy carbon offsets, but we also realize we're in this transition phase and wanting to transition away from car use, transition away from any burning of fossil fuel, but recognizing that we can't do it immediately, and committing to buying carbon offsets to do that. We're currently looking for a community partner for putting those carbon offset monies into like insulation and weathering for homes for people that can't afford to do that, just as one example. It has been a struggle. There has been grieving. There has been celebration. It's been fun. It's been excruciating at times, but we are stepping forward with it.